This is the beginning of a Russian invasion of Ukraine, as he indicated and asked permission to be able to do from his Duma. So let's begin to, I'm going to begin to impose sanctions in response far beyond the steps we and our allies and partners implemented in 2014. And if Russia goes further with this invasion, we stand prepared to go further as with sanctions.
Hello and welcome to What the F*** Just Happened Today, your essential guide to the daily shock and awe in national politics. I'm Joe Amditis. Let's get to it. It's Tuesday, February 22nd, 2022. Welcome to day 399. Joe Biden announced the first round of new sanctions against Russia after Vladimir Putin ordered troops into two Moscow-backed breakaway regions in Ukraine to carry out what Putin called, quote, peacekeeping functions, end quote. The sanctions are aimed at punishing Russia for, quote, the beginning of a Russian invasion of Ukraine, end quote, and would effectively cut off Russia from Western financing, as well as target Russian elites and their families in an effort to make sure people close to Putin, quote, share the pain, end quote. Biden condemned Putin's bizarre recognition of two separatist republics in eastern Ukraine, warning that Putin is, quote, setting up a rationale to take more territory by force, end quote. Biden also announced that he was moving additional troops and equipment to the Baltics in order to strengthen U.S. allies, but made clear that they would not be there to fight Russia. Meanwhile, Secretary of State Antony Blinken canceled a planned meeting with Russian Foreign Minister Sergey Lavrov, saying that it doesn't make sense in light of Russia's actions in Ukraine. Blinken had agreed to meet with Lavrov only if Russia did not invade Ukraine. Quote, now we see that the invasion is beginning and Russia has made clear its wholesale rejection of diplomacy, end quote. Blinken added that the U.S. would continue to pursue diplomacy if Russia takes, quote, demonstrable steps to provide the international community with any degree of confidence that it is serious about de-escalating and finding a diplomatic solution, end quote. Moving on, 3 white men who were convicted of state charges in Georgia for the murder of Ahmaud Arbery were also found guilty of federal hate crimes. A federal jury found Travis McMichael and his father Gregory McMichael, as well as their neighbor William Bryan, guilty of hate crimes and attempted kidnapping when they chased down and murdered Arbery. The McMichaels were also guilty of 1 count each of the use of a firearm to commit a crime. All 3 men had been convicted of state murder charges earlier this year and were sentenced to life in prison, with Bryan eligible for parole after 30 years. The 3 now face up to life in prison for the federal crimes, ensuring that the defendants will receive significant prison time even if their state convictions are overturned or their sentences are reduced on appeal. Meanwhile, a federal judge rejected Donald Trump's claims of absolute immunity from lawsuits that accused him of inciting the January 6th insurrection at the Capitol, finding that there was evidence to suggest that he engaged in a conspiracy with organized groups to intimidate Congress into overturning the results of the 2020 election. Trump's statements to his supporters before the riot, quote, is the essence of civil conspiracy, end quote, ruled Judge Amit Mehta in a 112-page ruling. Quoting repeatedly and at length from Trump's own public statements, Judge Mehta said Trump's rally speech can, quote, reasonably be viewed as a call for collective action, end quote, adding that Trump's Twitter attack on Pence during the violence suggests a tacit agreement with those who stormed the Capitol. The 3 lawsuits against Trump were brought by Democratic House members and police officers who were seeking damages for both physical and emotional injuries they incurred during the, quote, first ever presidential transfer of power marred by violence, end quote. And finally, the National Archives confirmed that it did indeed find classified information in the 15 boxes of White House records that Trump took with him from the White House to Mar-a-Lago. In a letter to Representative Carolyn Maloney, U.S. archivist David Ferrero wrote that officials had, quote, identified items marked as classified national security information within the boxes, end quote, the boxes which were located at Mar-a-Lago. Ferrero confirmed that the matter has been sent to the Justice Department. The letter also indicates that the archives, quote, learned that additional paper records had been torn up by Trump were included in the records that were transferred. This despite the White House counsel's office saying in 2018 that they would address the matter. Ferrero added, quote, although White House staff during the Trump administration recovered and taped together some of the torn up records, a number of other torn up records that were transferred had not been reconstructed by the White House, end quote. During the 2016 presidential campaign, Trump repeatedly railed against Hillary Clinton's use of a private email server when she was Secretary of State, insisting that she should be in jail for her handling of government documents. The FBI, however, did not recommend charges following an investigation. That's all for now. You can find the links and sources for all of these stories on the main website. And as always, visit whatthefjusthappenedtoday.com for the latest news and headlines. Until next time, I'm Joe Amditas.